Hey, Steady Steve, please like and subscribe. Please click on the Deck Heroes icon, click on subscribe, 100% free. Well, brackets, blood in, blood out, jokes. New Archer Commander from ROK, they're being very cloak and dagger. Not giving a lot away, but I think it's going to be absolutely garbage. Starting with this tree here. Archer, Garrison and Defense. This is out and out Garrison for me. Out and out Garrison for me, and the best Garrison strategy is just not to be rallied. Stay on Alliance territory, stay behind the pass, think forward to what the worst case scenario is. You know what I mean? You could have the best commanders in the world. You could be 200 million, 250 million, we've all seen the videos, and still get zeroed. Pointless out on a Garrison commander. Unless that's your role in the Alliance, in which case I hope you're a mega spender. And don't listen, one of the things I can say from my 5 odd years experience in the game, don't volunteer yourself to be a Garrison commander, because you will be judged on the amount of kills that you do, and it's very hard to do that as Garrison sometimes. Or you can just join a Garrison more so than invest in the Garrison commander if you really want to contribute and get kills that way. You know what I mean? So that's my advice. Invest in, not in this, but in PvP commanders, unless you're a high spender. Anyway, let's go on. Okay, first skill. It's an AoE skill. Rage requirement, the standard, 1000. I'm guessing it's called either Mighty or Mighty Heal. I think it's probably called Mighty. Anyway, so Mighty, the skill, heals a large portion of their troops' slightly wounded units. Now, we don't know what large is. I'm guessing it's probably going to be something, a minimum or exactly 2,500. That's what I think it's going to be. Maybe 2.7, maybe even 3. Even if, say if it was 3, right? Let's read on. Deals a certain proportion of that heal skill, and the heal strength is based on what the total number of that skill would have been. So if you are at 99% health and you, for some reason, your active skill triggers, you won't just get you won't calculate 1% healing. It's what the total would have been. Say if it is the 3,000, it'll always be based on that maximum healing output. I said, yeah, why don't they just say that? It's based on the maximum heal output, potential heal output, not what they actually healed. Anyway, a percentage of that is actually calculated as the true damage, and it's that true damage which is calculated to be the area of effect of up to 5 enemies, which goes down by the standard 15% for each enemy. Of course I like area of effect. Of course I like it that it touches 5. Of course it depends on the total healing, and of course it depends on what percentage of that total healing will contribute towards area of effect. I'm guessing it's going to be something like 70%. They seem to like that kind of number. So for example, if it was 3,000 healing going at upper end, I don't think it's going to be more than that. If it's 3,000, 70% of that, I've got my calculator, don't worry, 2,100. Slightly more than Huan Yu. That's what I reckon it's probably going to be. 3,000 sounds big. It's quite big. Yeah, 2,100 for the first enemy. That's what I think it's going to be. Okay, anyway, let's move on. Second skill. This commander's archer units gain defense and march speed. Well, defense, it definitely needs that. It's a Garrison commander. Goodness knows what it needs. It's march speed. Just wasted skill. If this commander's troop contains only archer units, it deals more normal damage. Now, it's going to be a Garrison commander. That's what I'm saying. Listen, that's it. If you got thousands of troops in your garrison, or you got like lots of reinforcements in the flag and all that kind of stuff, most of the damage is probably going to be normal damage, more so than active skill. You know what I mean? Even with this 3,000 potential healing factor and this mystery percentage, it's probably going to be normal damage, going to do most of the damage towards their side. And it's going to be attack and counter-attack from how they've described it. As a Garrison, that's the minimum that you would expect, and it does it, so okay, fair enough. The march speed and the second skill, completely useless, but it needs and will take the defense. We just don't know how much defense it's going to give. Third skill. This commander's troop takes less normal damage. So whilst I just talked about, you know, the damage that we can give them, there's a mystery percentage of less normal damage that we'll take. And again, we're taking just constant rallied armies, and the way they've changed this metric about how you can reinforce rallies, and definitely how you can reinforce flags and stuff, much tougher to get this thing done. You'd think that they'd make it easier to double rally, or that kingdoms would work it out. Anyway, let's not go into that. If this commander is serving as a garrison commander, which it only be, brackets, that's the only thing it would be, whenever their garrison is hit with a basic attack, it has a chance to negate all of its current target's health and defense buffs for a certain amount of time. That is going to increase. That, I love that. I've got to be honest, I love that. The two main things that that person wants to hold on to, health and defense buffs, gone. Oof. Huge. That is huge. Huge, huge, huge. Don't forget though, garrison commander, waste of time unless you kind of, that's your role. Anyway, includes smite so this normal damage, yeah, includes smite damage, damage dealt by basic attacks, counter attacks. Does not include damage dealt by arranged basic attacks and arranged counter attacks. Wowee. Anyway, the fourth skill increases all healing this commander's troop receives. That's interesting then. So that makes me think they may not be brave enough to go 3,000. They may go like 2.7, 2.8, maybe even 2.9. And I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if this boost right here is going to be something like 10%. And if it is, then they may go like 2.8. 2750, 2.8, and then it'll probably be a fraction over 3,000. Let's see what happens. That's what I'm thinking now. Well, I don't know, obviously. Okay. Yeah, let's read on. If their troops' current target is a rallied army, and this is where it gets confusing when they keep on saying there, because I keep on thinking the enemy, but I think it's referring to self. Oh, God. Anyway, if I'm going to read it like anyway, if their troops' current target is a rallied army, whenever their troop, that must still mean us, right? Not them. Whenever our current target is a rallied army, whenever our troop uses an active skill, the target loses health for a certain amount of time. Okay, that it makes, I can understand that, if that's what it is. This effect can stack up to a certain number of times, and its duration resets whenever it gains another stack. Okay, so if our troop's current target is a rallied army, fair enough. Whenever our troop uses an active skill, or our commander, the target loses health for a certain amount of time. That's... wow. And again, that third skill as well keeps on trying to take away that health buff. That's... oh my gosh, man. They're going to be so dead. They're going to be so dead. So listen, as a garrison, if that's your role, definitely worth consideration. Outside of that, maybe not. But as much as it takes away their health, it doesn't have health in itself. It doesn't really have much of a health buff. It had that defense in the second skill. And that was it. Yeah, the defense buff, we don't know how much that's going to be. It's going to have to be great, because we don't get any health as much as we take away theirs. Ooh, yeah, things anyway. Okay, certain amount of time, stack up to a certain number of times. Another stack, and we don't know how what the time's going to be. We don't know about the stacks. The interesting thing is that normally it would just kind of trigger the active skill again, but it doesn't say that. So maybe it just reaches a maximum after a given time, and it just stays at the maximum. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen them handle things like that before, but you know, maybe it does. Or maybe it reaches the maximum and it crashes down to 0 with no active skill. Possible. Or maybe it just kind of keeps them rolling. Anyway, the expertise skill. This commander's troop. Yeah, I like it. Why didn't you just say that before instead of their troop? This commander's troop deals more counterattack damage. Thank you, I understand that. We don't know how much, but again, for given the number of troops you're going to have in your garrison or a flag or a fortress or whatever it's going to be loads. So that counterattack damage could be just immense, especially with that kind of health and defense debuff that it keeps on wanting to give, and it knows what it's doing. It's devastating to whoever's rallying us, basically. And oh my gosh, forget about the AoE again. None of this is to do with AoE. If you're a garrison, once you just don't swarm. Swarm could be very, very, very bad. It could be like insta death, basically. That's just instant death. When they have an instant death skill, I will LOL. There you go. That's basically what it is. Anyway, if this target has fewer units than this commander's troop, I'm reading expertise skill, by the way. This counter-attack damage bonus will increase even further. I guess it's situation specific, but could be quite likely for whoever's in the fortress to have more troops than a rally. At least at some time, you'll have to get out of that rally as soon as that thing starts running down, or people don't send their troops fast enough. You could be dead super quick. So, yeah, again, what do I rate it? I think it's going to be very bloody. I think it could. I actually don't really mind it as a garrison. I can see, as I take away the health and the defense, wow, it's just bare bones left. And the counterattack buffs and the normal damage buffs. And yeah, I think this AoE is just like it's going to draw people in, and they're going to be very disappointed with the outcomes if they're thinking about player versus player. And it's almost meaningless also in garrison unless you're going to swarm. But honestly, I think, do people still swarm cities these days? I mean, that we already know that means you're not going to win those trades, my friend. You know what I mean? You'd have to see some real early command or some real elementary error. You know, I sometimes in what's it called now, Ark of Osiris. Yeah. You might send a lot of troops out. Well, one of those maybe will be your garrison. You may be garrisoning something else. In those situations, you might kind of flag somebody up as, now's the time for me to swarm. You don't really lose your troops, do you? You don't literally lose troops in Ark of Osiris. But in KVK, you will lose those troops and they will be dead, and many will be dead. So this more kind of like guarantees it, like double stamps it would be. So that's a garrison, which again, I do not recommend. I think it's got some high death potential to give and potentially receive as well. You'd have to think about, as I say, the fact that there's no health buffs. But yeah, not bad. I don't know. Leaning towards maybe might still be a 5. People don't like Gen 4.5, 5. What I'm thinking is that heal. People hate the heal. I remember, gosh, when I first started playing. Sorry, yeah, that's basically the end of the video. I've got to start kind of thinking back now to the old days of other healers, like when Richard used to be really good for that type of thing. And yeah, you pair him up with a Martel or something like that. But then there was a point where people thought, no, you don't want to keep on healing like that because it just gives you more severely wounded. But in some ways though, if you can maintain a high number of troops, surely they get, and you are given a high proportion of normal attack damage and counter-attack damage and everything else combined, then surely you are just the ultra tank of a garrison. And if it was infantry, I think people would really go for it. If it was Cav, I think people would really go for it to try and induce people for archers. I think they maybe had to go for something like this. Probably as a 5 as a garrison, but nothing else. That's what I'm going to go with anyway. Yeah, please like, subscribe. That is Steve, and I'm out.